morning and welcome to is the Indiana fan base super delusional and sensitive edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor, everybody, and smash that like button. If you don't mind, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, ring the bell, get notified every time we go live, and of course, let us know what you think about what we think down in the comments section below. I am sure this one is going to get some attention from the fan base I'm about to talk about. And you can rest assured. I will be back to talk about your fan base very soon, Wolverine fans. But this one's about your neighbors to the south in Bloomington, Indiana. The Indiana Hoosier fan base, man, they have grown super sensitive. And quite frankly, they are absolutely delusional. And after the news that broke yesterday about Indiana canceling their series and game against Virginia and willing to pay the Hoos $500,000 to get out of playing a team that, quite frankly, they should beat. They're better than currently, but yet apparently they're scared to play Virginia now. Looks super soft, looks super scared, and I know that they're probably thinking, well, if we get enough wins in the conference and we make sure that we get 3 wins out of the conference, we can keep this bowl streak thing that they think they have going with Cignetti alive, and they're going to be able to compete for getting into the college football playoff again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're not doing yourself any favors on the national landscape whatsoever if you're unwilling to play teams of equal or slightly lesser talent of another conference than yourself, and you're just not willing to play them. But that's not what this video is entirely about. However, it spurred on some thoughts, and this thing was boiling over because, as you know, we've been doing Big Ten previews for 4 years here at the OHIO podcast. Every Big Ten team, we bring someone on from a sister podcast who we enjoy working with, and we preview their team. It's a way for fan base, the Ohio State fan base, to learn about the other teams in the Big Ten. For those who enjoy betting and want to put a little bit of dime down, it kind of gives you a better idea. Is this a good bet or a bad bet? Should I stay away? Should I drop some dime on the over or under, etc.? And a lot of times we get the fans of that particular fan base who are doing the preview to chime in. Now, when they see that it's from an Ohio State podcast, usually we get one of two responses. Hey guys, that's cool that you guys did that. Appreciate your takes. Or, man, we didn't realize that you guys thought this way about our fan base. Appreciate you taking the time to do that. Or we get what we got from this fan base in Indiana. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. But before I read their comments about how super sensitive they are, I need to point out the fact that they're just flat out delusional. Okay, Indiana had the best season they have ever had in Indiana football history last year. It was by far one of the most sensational things. And we went into last year, Chris and my co-host and I, saying that we were going to find out if a G4 All-Star team could compete at a G5 All-Star team could compete at a Power 4 level. That was what we were saying. And the answer to that question was yes, they absolutely could. However, when teams like Alabama and teams like Ole Miss were complaining that Indiana was put into the college football playoff over them simply because they had more wins, there is an argument for that when you dive deeper. And of course, all of us Big Ten people and us Northern folks, we said, quit crying, Alabama. You have no argument. You lost to Oklahoma. You lost to Vanderbilt. So if you win just one of those 2 games, which you obviously should, then you have no. Then you're going to be in. You're going to make it. But they didn't. They lost those games, and so we defended Indiana. And Indiana, they didn't have a bad showing against Notre Dame. It wasn't like Notre Dame absolutely blew them off the field or something. It was a close game, but I digress. Let's dive into the numbers last year. Indiana last season, during the regular season, yeah, I understand that they beat the tar out of a lot of these teams, but listen to these records. They beat FIU last year by a score of uh, let me pull up last year's results here real fast. They beat FIU by a score of 31-7. FIU was 4-8. They beat Western Illinois, the Leathernecks, great mascot. They crushed them 77-3. The Leathernecks were 4-8 in their lower division. Okay, they weren't even a very good football team. They beat UCLA out on the West Coast 42-13. UCLA was 5-7 last year. They beat Charlotte 52-14. Charlotte was 5-7 last year. Not even a 500 team in the power or in the group of five. They beat Maryland last year, 42-28. Maryland was 4-8. They beat Northwestern last year, 41-24. Northwestern was 4-8. They beat Nebraska last year, 56-7. Nebraska was 7-6 overall last year. They were 6-6 before they won their bowl game, 500 during the regular season. They beat Washington, 31-17. Again, Washington ends up being 6-7, but they were 6-6 in the regular season, a 500 team. They beat Michigan State 47-10. Michigan State last year was 5-7. They beat Michigan last year 20-15. Michigan was 8-5 last year, but so that was the first team they beat with a regular season winning record, and they beat them by 5 points at home, 20-15. They lost to Ohio State 38-15 in the shoe. They beat the lowly Purdue Boilermakers 66-0. Purdue was 1-11 last year. Then they go in and they lose to Notre Dame 27-17 in the college football playoff. Notre Dame was 14-2. If you do the math, they played Nebraska, who ended up 7-6. Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, they went 2-2 against the teams who actually have a pulse, teams who are actually good. 3 teams, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, they were 1-2. Ohio State, Notre Dame, the only 2 teams they played who were in basically the top 15 in the country, playoff teams, they were 0-2. No, Indiana needs to stop acting like they have been a blue blood or something in college football for years. By the way, if you're going to chirp at me, which they totally do, and we'll get to in a minute, if you're going to chirp at me, you need to actually have something. You need to have grounds to stand on if you're going to do that. Indiana, all time against Ohio State, 12 wins, 80 losses, and 5 ties. They have a current losing streak against the Buckeyes of 29 straight games. That's the longest losing streak in conference in Big Ten play in the history of the conference, Kurt Cignetti. So when you grab a microphone and you tell the world that Ohio State sucks, Michigan sucks, and Purdue sucks, maybe you should think about that before losing to Ohio State like you did, pal. And oh, by the way, you can say all you want to say, 80 losses, 29 straight to the teams who actually knows a little bit about football. That's why I wore this hat, to remind all of you Indiana fans what a national champion looks like, because it doesn't play in Bloomington, Indiana. I guarantee you that. You had a great season. Congratulations. The best season you ever had. You made it to the college football playoff. Have some humility about yourself. Be thankful you actually had a winning program, and don't get online and start chirping at people like you are owed something. Let me show you what I mean by that. Look at this. Let's dive into these comments. This was, again, from our Indiana preview that we did a few weeks ago, about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Look at some of these comments from Indiana fans. I love it. Count us out, baby. That's how Cignetti Company operate best. You've had him for 1 year. You act like he's been doing this for decades. This is how he operates best. It's literally the best thing the media could possibly do to us. By the way, we are a fan site. I, I don't know why people just automatically assume that we're like owned by CBS or ESPN or something like that. Like we're like some kind of big media company or something. But I digress. Whatever, pal. Thanks for the compliment, I guess. But yeah. By the way, Chris and I actually gave you guys a lot of credit in that video. And we actually think you're going to be a pretty good football team this year. Excuse us that we didn't have you winning the Big Ten in 2025. Oh my gosh, how dare we? How dare we not put Indiana at the top of the Big Ten Conference? They're going to go 11-1 again. They're going to go 10-2. How dare us? Actually think, you know what? They'll probably be closer to 6-6, maybe 7-5. Heck, they might even get to 8-4 this year. How dare us not give you guys the due respect of putting double-digit wins on your projection for this season? My goodness, who are we? Let's go down here to David. Here we go again. No love for Indiana. They will prove everyone wrong again. Do we have over 100 years of evidence that last year's Indiana football team was not the norm, my friend? Over 100 years of Indiana being the basement dweller of the conference, but you're just going to prove everyone wrong again, huh? They will be more talented this year, and Sig and his coaches have proved they can produce a well-disciplined team. By the way, you actually lost some coaches, too, in case you didn't know that. Offense and defense will be better this year. Will they? How do you know? This IU team has a lot more talent this year than last. The production is insane. You haven't played one game yet, pal, but yet the production is insane. It's insane. We got some transfers, and their production was insane last year. What were the records for some of those guys that produced? Yeah, did you ask yourself that? Did you even look at your schedule, by the way? I mean, my gosh, the ignorance of this is absolutely outstanding. We'll get into the schedule here in just a minute, but let's keep reading these comments. They're great. They're fantastic. Let's see here. IU 11-1 first round win in the CFP. That's what this guy's prediction is. They're going to go 11-1 and they're going to win in the CFP in the first round this upcoming year. Football was the headliner, went after basketball, and Sig received a bigger fan response than DeVry during the touring events around the state. Hard to imagine Bob Knight being the warm-up act for any of IU's football coaches during his tenure. Yeah, it would be, because your football team stunk and your basketball team was actually pretty good. And just because the roles have reversed all of a sudden, yeah, I would assume that that's probably what you fans are cheering for, because you want to cheer for a winner. That's common sense here. Common sense. But okay. Here we go. The 2025 Indiana football team will be very good. Despite the uninformed opinions of some naysayers, within the framework of this offense, Mendoza will flourish. Again, how do we know that? It's all speculation. He's a good passer. He is. And he's more mobile than Rourke. To a degree, historically to a degree, but you also had a quarterback who was injured last year. All Big Ten type of flourish. It's all Big Ten type of flourish. The two top receivers are back. That is true. You do have your receiver talent back. They have a more talented team this year. I'm sure they will be just fine. I think they will be just fine. It's exactly what we said. They're going to be just fine. Again, we're not saying that they're going to stink here, okay? IU alum here, and I just can't respect a response from Chris saying, I have a feeling that IU will be upset by Maryland. Based on absolutely nothing that's current about Coach Sig or the program he's already built, but apparently entirely based on past history. Well, I hate to remind y'all, fella, but Coach Allen isn't coaching the team anymore. So take that, tired. IU has always sucked, so they'll probably suck again this year, and just leave it off of your podcast because you're not helping yourself. But you sound like you don't know a thing about football currently. Chris has probably won more money betting on football than anybody I know. Okay? Just so you're aware of that. All right. The dude is a habitual. You got to keep him out of the casinos when we go on trips. The dude knows his stuff when it comes to betting football. All right. So you can take that to the bank as well. All right. I'm not going to read all of this, but thank you for the compliment. Eric did a much better job. I appreciate that. At least you have a well thought out response here. But anyways, Scott says sloppy podcast, sloppy host, boring and dubious. Ooh, my goodness. Scott using some big words there. Sloppy podcast. I went to your podcast. You didn't have one, by the way. So if you're going to have that kind of opinion, maybe you should try it first. Just saying. All right. 7-5 says Uncle here. He obviously is not a Indiana fan or Indiana homer. Still no grace, OHIO podcast dudes. No way I'd subscribe. Actually, glad you don't like us Hoosiers. We aren't your fans either. I guess the feeling is mutual. All right, as an Indiana fan, I believe we are going to be a good team. I mean, back to the playoffs? Maybe not. But hey, most teams don't do that. But I think we are not going to go backwards to the old Indiana, and I think we are going to compete from now on, and I think Sig is the real deal, which is exactly what we said. But apparently the rest of your fan base there is offended by the fact that we say you're probably not going to go back to the playoffs here, okay? The fact that this fan base is this delusional and this annoying. I know you guys are super annoying during basketball season, especially on Twitter, and I get it. You guys have been a basketball powerhouse. You're a basketball blue blood, and you have a reason to be talkative like that in basketball. And your basketball team hasn't been good. But the fact that you're just taking that entire mindset and now applying it to football when you have been the trash of the conference for as long as I've been alive, for as long as my dad's been alive, and for as long as my deceased grandfather was alive, doesn't, I mean, dude, know your place. Show some humility here and understand that one really good season against a bunch of teams that had terrible records doesn't mean all of a sudden Indiana's going to be great again. By the way, let's take a look at this year's schedule, okay? Since we want to play that game. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. Woo! My goodness. 3 powerhouses there. No wonder you didn't want to play Virginia. That's actually a step up from who you guys are playing in your non-conference. My goodness. No way. No way. Unbelievable. Let's keep going. Then you get, if the page will update here, here it is. Then you get Illinois. Huge game. Get them at home. Huge game. Everybody's calling Illinois last year's Indiana. I think Illinois is going to probably beat you. At Iowa, haven't played well at Iowa, and historically, have you? Iowa, pretty good football team. Do you have a chance to beat Iowa? I think you do. Can you? I think you will. Are you? We'll see. Bye week at Oregon. There's a second L, maybe the third in a row possibly for you. Michigan State, UCLA at home. You should win those games, hypothetically. At Maryland, you should win that one. At Penn State, enjoy that L. That's at least 3 or 4 losses on your schedule. Wisconsin, not a gimme, but you probably should win. At Purdue, you probably should win. You're looking at best, in my opinion, at best, 9-3, more than likely 8-4. And oh, by the way, Michigan State, UCLA, they can beat you if you're overconfident and everything doesn't go your way this season. Is Curt Cignetti a good coach? Yes. Do I think he is the right guy for your program? Absolutely. Do I think you guys are going to go 10-2 or 11-1 and go back to the college football playoff? No, I don't. And no one who in their right mind does either. And so stop with this whole attitude that you guys like are being totally dissed by everybody because all of a sudden you go 11-1 last season in the regular season. You beat Michigan. Thank you, by the way. And all of a sudden, you guys are you're there. You're not there yet, guys. You're not. By the way, what's your over under from Vegas this year? 8.5. What's that mean? Vegas sees you at 8 or 9 wins, at most 9, but probably closer to 8. And they're betting that all you Indiana people are going to take the over. That's what they're doing. That's what that means. So when we say 7-5, 8-4, that's actually us giving you some due respect. But the fact that you guys want to all of a sudden throw out there how great you are, and especially right after you guys cancel the Virginia game, like, dude, no one respects you now. Again, what little respect you earned is completely lost. Keep chirping, Indiana fans. There's going to be a whole lot more people stomping those Cigs out, just like Ohio State did last year. Enjoy those 3 or 4 losses guaranteed. Maybe 5. Shoot, I don't know. I would celebrate you guys going 6-6. Wouldn't it be amazing if Indiana ends up 5-7 and doesn't go to a bowl game, especially after winning those 3 easy games at the beginning of the year? Indiana, grow up, show some respect, understand your place, be happy you have a winning program, because very easily you could go back to being the Indiana who we all love to beat up on, at least Ohio State did, 29 straight times. Let me know what you think about what I think down in the comment section below. I'm sure this one's going to be a doozy out there in the great state of Indiana. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH, St. Carmen, Ohio, with all your heart. Go Bucks.